Hello, Soundies. Welcome to our Sound for Video session. Today is the 13th of April, 2025. It's great to have you all here. I hope you're all doing well, staying warm or cool enough, or whatever the case may be, wherever you're based. So always delightful to get the weather reports here. Let's go ahead and switch over to the agenda. This is a pretty straightforward one. So last Sunday and Monday, I was in Las Vegas in Nevada, which is where they hold the annual National Association of Broadcasters meeting, NAB. And it's an interesting show. It's the first time in a while I've been. So my first time going was in 2015, and I went through 2019, and then I haven't been since then. So this is my first time back. It was exciting to see that. There are a few things that have changed, but I want to just kind of talk about some of the things that we saw there, or that I saw there, some of the experiences, and some things that we learned as well. We'll do a Q&A, but we'll just do it in the chat. Nobody submitted anything ahead of time, so we'll go ahead and jump in. Let me just tell a little bit about some of the things that we experienced in NAB. Here's my crooked picture of, this is the Las Vegas Convention Center from a distance, and this is the one I remember, but you can see some of the buildings are actually being renovated, and it's enormous. It's an enormous convention center. I haven't been to a bigger one. There are maybe others that are bigger in the world, but they've also built a brand new West Hall, which is what we see here, and that the tracks going over the top there are the monorail that run up and down the strip in Las Vegas. But I think with the addition of the West Hall, it feels like it's at least another third larger, and it's enormous. So there's a lot to see, and there's not tons of time to do it, but for me, the reason for going to NAB is a few things. Number one, it's honestly, it's just fun. It's fun to go spend time with people that care about some of the same things that you do some of the similar type work that you do. So that's a big part of it. Networking and meeting other people that you haven't met before is a big part of it. And then, of course, there is the exhibit floor where you get to go and talk to the different manufacturers. They get to show you the new products that they have or any of the existing products that they have. So those are kind of the main draws for me. Here's a fellow you might recognize. This is Mr. Matt Ruff. I don't know, is Audio Buff here today? I haven't seen him in the chat yet, but we took this photo specifically for Jude, but you can see here there's a taco shop. Matt looks pretty enthused about it, as you can see. And I think he likes tacos, but he actually likes crab legs even better. So we went to this restaurant instead and had a delightful time on Sunday evening last. Also, the cool thing is you get to meet people that I've met before, but I've never met in person. So here, for example, with Matt and I, you can see in the middle there is Tom Buck. He has a YouTube channel. Fantastic educator, former high school teacher, high school media arts teacher, and a really, really great guy. Fun to spend a little bit of time with him. We walked around, I think it was the North Hall? I don't remember. It was one of the halls, but I just realized we're standing in front of a booth called Good Luck LED. We never visited that booth, but we got a picture here in front of it. Let me just talk about some of the things that I got to see that were interesting. Allen and Heath, incidentally, I learned this. I knew that Allen and Heath and Sound Devices are owned by the same parent company called Audiotronics. What I didn't realize is that Audiotronics also owns a bunch of other companies, including Universal Audio, TC Electronic, and I think they own this. I'm not going to say, but they own a bunch of other kind of very reputable companies in the professional audio space. And so all of them had booths in this sort of clustered area. And the thing that was exciting for me was, this is funny, I guess, because Allen and Heath has their CQ mixers. They've been out for a while, a couple of years at least. And this was the first time I got a chance to go actually touch them and interact with them and see what they're all about. And the thing that's always kind of been cool about them to me is that they have Allen and Heath's automatic mic mixer, which is really good. So a lot of times, for example, we had a question 2 weeks ago when we had our last live stream. Somebody asked, hey, how I'm doing a podcast, I need advice, what do I do? And one of the things that I always recommend for podcasts that if you're doing a multiple person podcast where the multiple people, or at least some of the multiple people, are in the same room, an auto mixer or an automatic mic mixer in the case of Allen and Heath is really, really helpful. It will save you potentially a ton of time in post-production. And I think in my experience with podcasts, for those that are doing a passion project podcast in particular, or even a professional podcast, it's what happens time and time again in my experience is people get all excited, they buy the gear, they do their first episode, they work through the whole workflow, they realize, wow, that's a lot of work. Or, oh, we have problems that we need to solve. It doesn't sound very good, or whatever. We have microphone bleed or this or that. And they might keep going for 2 or 3 more, maybe 4 more. But a lot of people just sort of lose steam at that point and give up. And I think a lot of that is just because they need a little bit more guidance. They need a little bit more help to realize how to solve some of the problems that they're running into to make that process of recording, producing, and publishing their podcast as smooth as possible. So it's not as big an investment of time. And that's the thing that has always kind of struck me about the CQ mixers is they have the automatic mic mixer. They have really great sounding preamplifiers. The CQ mixers, I think the most expensive one is, I think, $1,200, and they go down. They're the entry level one, which I think is a CQ12, is under $1,000. Plenty of inputs for any podcast, and they look really, really interesting. So this is my first chance to kind of get my hands on one and play around with them a little bit. Went to the Sennheiser booth. Sennheiser has a brand new microphone, which is that was like, as far as microphones go, I think this was pretty much the only announcement, formal announcement of a new, like a boom microphone of some sort from one of the big companies. So this is the Sennheiser MKH 8018. It is unique because it's a shotgun microphone, but it's a stereo shotgun microphone, which when I first heard the concept of a stereo shotgun microphone, I said, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you have a stereo shotgun microphone? Well, the thing about this one is it has 3 different modes, and there's a mid-side stereo recording mode. So you have a microphone that is most sensitive on the front, and then you have a figure 8 microphone that's picking up the sides. And the beautiful thing about mid-side stereo recording is that in post-production, you can tune how wide the stereo imaging is. You can mix in however much of the side microphones you choose to. So you don't have to make it especially wide if you don't want it to sound that way, or you can. And the other thing with mid-side is that it's mono-compatible, which means if you just need a regular shotgun microphone, this one can do that as well. You just don't record or don't use the side mic recording. You just use the mid recording, and it's a fantastic RF biased, classic Sennheiser quality design shotgun microphone. So that's cool. There's also 2 XY stereo recording modes, wide and narrow. So if you wanted to do those. So in short, I guess the nice thing about this microphone is that if you were getting going as a production sound, or doing location sound, I would say, this is a really good microphone that could be your all-rounder. It could do most things. It's a sort of a medium to short shotgun mic. You could even use it indoors in some, in a lot of cases, but it could be used as a very directional shotgun microphone out on the end of a boom pole, but you could also use it for capturing stereo ambiances, which is really, really nice. So it's kind of a one microphone does pretty much all the jobs that a location sound recordist or mixer would need. So that one, it's not a cheap microphone though. So while you're getting all of those in one, it is a $2,000 US microphone, it looks like, if I remember right. But again, I've been really, really happy with all my Sennheiser microphones, and here's a new addition. So that was pretty exciting. Oh, that was all I had as far as photos, but let's go back. Let's take a closer look. Let's switch over to the Mac here.
Do you want to address?
Oh, do we have things in the chat? Yeah, let's go to the main camera and let's see what's going on in the chat. If there are any questions, comments, disagreements. Who did you meet? Well, I met.
And then she also said,
I saw you with Tom Buck. Yep, Tom Buck. Matt Johnson. As far as let's talk about YouTube creators, and then let's talk about people that are in production sound and at the product companies. Matt Johnson, who has a YouTube channel as well. He's a wedding videographer and does a lot of coverage of like hybrid cameras, but also audio gear. He has his own little kit of microphone cables that wedding videographers typically need to hook up to the DJ board to get a feed of sound from the DJ into their own recorder. So we saw Matt there. We saw our very own Robert Harker. Robert was there. Matt and I got to meet him on Monday, and we walked around just a little bit, went to the Sennheiser booth, went to the Shure booth. That was cool. Got to meet, and his name is escaping me right now, at the Shure booth. Now, in terms of, Adrian, or is that his name? Aiden from Dark Corner Studios. I got to meet him. He was there. I've met him before online, but never in person. Lots of other people too. I'm trying to remember. A lot of people came up and said, "Thanks for your videos," it's always nice to meet the other folks there too. As far as production sound mixers, Michael Wynn was there. If you haven't been over to Michael Wynn's YouTube channel, he's a production sound mixer based in Atlanta. He was there. He and I went to breakfast on Monday morning and went around to visit several of the booths that morning as well. And Gerald Undone was there. I've met him before in person multiple times, but we got to chat for a few minutes. As far as production sound mixers, I think his name is Ryan Pedersen, also a production sound mixer based in Los Angeles. He was over at the Shure booth showing off the SLX-D wireless microphone system, which he uses largely as IFBs, honestly. He'll use them as a way to get audio from his mixer to all the crew members that need sound. So directors, script supervisors, producers, his own boom operator, maybe his utility sound technician. So he'll use the SLX-D system, and that works pretty nicely for him. And that's Shure's sort of, it's not Shure's top end. So their top end wireless microphone system is Axient, and then SLX-D is actually, I would say, designed largely for more like conferences at hotels in the big conference rooms and things like that, or maybe in House of Worship. Most of the receivers are actually rack mount receivers, but they do now have a smaller body pack receiver as well. So that was one thing. I got to go to the Zaxcom booth. Zaxcom is a really interesting company. They are incredibly innovative in terms of what they do. They have it's not their flagship because they have bigger recorder mixers than this, but Nova is the one that's sort of similar to the Sound Devices 833, but it has the ability to slot in two receivers, I believe, into the back of the mixer itself. So you can have a very, very compact setup with 4 channels of wireless audio, which is really nice. They also are the ones that hold the patents for a lot of the technologies that frustrate us on other things. So they have the ability to record to their transmitters and transmit at the same time within the United States. They have tiny, tiny, tiny transmitters that all the people that I've talked to that have used them say they're fantastic. Sound quality is through the roof, great. They're tiny. They power for a long time, like 6 hours. They use a kind of a proprietary lithium-ion battery that you can swap out. But people are really quite happy with those. So they also introduced a new IFB. This was actually kind of the year of IFBs, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. You'll see as well. IFB standing for Interruptible Foldback, which is a very fancy name. I guess traditionally what they were used for is like in newscasters would have a little in-ear monitor connected to their IFB, and the producer could talk to them and prompt them and tell them, hey, do this next or whatever. So they could have the producer voice in their ear. What they're used for typically in video production and on film sets is the way to get the sound from the mixer to the various crew members that need to be able to hear it. So that's going to be your boom operator and your utility sound technician as part of a comms system, but also, as I mentioned before, directors, script supervisors, producers, and any other members of the crew that need that. So they have Zaxcom has a new one they call, I'll have this I'm putting together a summary, kind of a highlight video that'll go over onto my main channel here in the next little bit. But I don't remember the model name, but it's a VHF IFB system instead of UHF. What does that mean? So it's a different band of spectrum. That's not where wireless microphones are typically operating. So that's good because now you can have your comms for all the members of the crew that need them not competing or using up any of the bandwidth that you need for your wireless microphones. So that's especially critical on bigger shoots where they have a lot of wireless channels, a lot of wireless microphone channels that they need to use, and they don't want to use up that spectrum. So the problem with VHF traditionally has been that because of the frequencies, it's really hard to get good quality sounding audio. And you typically haven't seen VHF wireless microphone systems for a long time. Some of the consumer systems back in the years ago were using VHF, but they did not sound good. And in fact, my Comtex, which is what I use for an IFB, use VHF, and they don't sound amazing. They're good enough to get the particular job I need them to get done, but they don't sound fantastic. And the thing about the Zaxcom VHF system is it sounds surprisingly good. They've done a really good job engineering it. And in terms of range, the system does really, really well. We put it on me. Michael Wynn was with me. We have a little clip of me walking across the entire exhibit hall, and we went from basically the 1/3 point to the very end, which had to be, I don't know, I'm going to guess 500 meters. And we walked around a block wall at one point, and I never lost connectivity. It kept going. Now, granted, they were using a dipole antenna set up at about 8 feet. So if you can do something like that on set, you can have fantastic range. So even block walls, like cinder block type walls, me turning around either direction, none of that cut it out. So it did a really nice job staying connected. So that was Zaxcom. I then went over to the Sound Devices booth, and at Sound Devices, they didn't have anything brand new to announce at the show, but there were 3 things that stood out to me there. Number one, I got to talk to Paul Isaacs, who is one of their product designers, or their main product designer now, there's Gary Trenda, who is one of their wireless engineers, and so he's kind of behind a lot of the new wireless stuff, so the Nexus and all of those things. Paul Isaacs is the one that focuses primarily on the mixers and recorders and stuff like that. But he did give me an overview of their new A20HH, which is a handheld microphone. This is a microphone that Kendrick Lamar used at his Super Bowl halftime show. I don't know if you knew that. I learned that. That was kind of cool. So 2 things stick out at me, stand out, I guess I should say, about Sound Devices after this conversation with Paul Isaacs. So first of all, he walked me through the microphone. It's a fantastic microphone. You can use their microphone capsule, or you can put a Shure capsule on there, or you can put a Sennheiser capsule on there. They've done some really interesting engineering as far as the antenna is concerned. Handheld wireless microphones are a little bit interesting sometimes because based on where the talent holds the microphone, it can actually block the wireless signal. But they've done some interesting engineering with a conical antenna that's in the actual handle itself. So that was really interesting. It can record on the handheld microphone itself as well. They also, the whole body you can remove because, and this is getting to the point here, if somebody wants to bedazzle their microphone, which a lot of performers will do these days, they can do that. So you can buy the kit with just the the grill and the handle so that you can go and send that to the artist who's going to bedazzle it and then put it on the microphone. What this made me think, and what I asked Paul Isaacs about, I said, this is interesting. You're moving into you're serving a new set of customers, it sounds like. And he said, very much yes. So they're going for live sound now as well. So Sound Devices is not just catering to sound for video and TV and film production. They are actually looking to go beyond that. And in fact, Gary Trenda, who is their wireless engineer, he was the A1 mixer on the Super Bowl halftime show for 8 years running. He doesn't do that anymore now. Obviously, he's working at Sound Devices, but that's a sound mixer with a lot of experience. So in any case, he got to talk to him a little bit as well, which was interesting. So that was the first thing. Second thing, at their booth, I had never seen up close and personal, and we can actually show this. Let's go to sounddevices.com. We'll go over to our Mac. So here we go. So here, obviously, we're trying to show off that this is the microphone I was just telling you about, the handheld. Make it your own. Sounded great, no cutouts. Did a beautiful job at the halftime show. But as far as products are concerned, let's see here. First time I got to see the CL16. This is the linear fader control surface for the 8 series recorders and mixers. And it looks, let's see, let's get some photos here. That one is not very helpful for me. Let's go back. This would be a better photo to look at, I think. Here it is. So this is a big screen right here. It makes me chuckle a little bit, but a lot of times people are using this word now. It's a bespoke control surface for the Sound Devices 8 series mixers and recorders. And in fact, you can see these knobs look very much like the knobs that you've seen on the Sound Devices Mix Pre. But you have these really nice faders from Penny and Giles. They're not motorized, but they're super, super smooth. That was evidently what a lot of their customers that were using this level of gear wanted. They were like, I'd rather have 16 channels or 16 faders and not have them motorized, so I don't have to switch between banks, because it's a little bit, it's not easy to mix live when you're having to switch between banks. In any case, so it's my first chance to get my hands on that and actually see what it was all about, and it looks pretty cool. I don't know that this would be the right tool for me because I'm not mixing things quite at that level, but it was fun to get to see it. There's a new control surface. We can go back to the main camera for now. There's a new control surface from Icon, I think is. So when the Sound Devices 8 series launched, they partnered with, I think the name of the company is Icon, who make control surfaces, and they did the work to make one of their control surfaces compatible with the 8 series mixer recorders out of the gate, because they didn't have the CL16 right away. And a lot of people complained about it. It's a much lower cost. It's not anything like the CL16. The CL16 is like a $5,000 or $6,000 control surface, and it's really, really well engineered. And I can see how it'd be a dream to work with if I were mixing at that level. The Icon control surfaces had banks and motorized faders and so on and so forth, but it was mostly plastic, and you had to map a bunch of stuff, and it was a funky experience. But they have a new one now that is much better built, so it definitely is made out of a lot more metal. The thing is that is interesting to me, it's not a lot smaller. I thought, this might be more useful because it's smaller. You could fit it on a small cart, but it's actually not that much smaller than the CL16, which is actually fairly compact for a 16 fader control surface. But anyway, that was another one. And then the third thing that happened at the Sound Devices booth, and we'll take a pause after this, is that Paul Isaacs said, if there were a third generation Mix Pre coming sometime down the line, what would you like to see in the Mix Pre? And that was probably the most exciting discussion I got to have with him. So there were definitely some things that I cited, like it'd be nice to have a bigger screen. It'd be nice to have a different form factor. It'd be nice to have the menu encoder on the front of the mixer instead of on the side. it would be nice to have alternative, like a Limo or Hiroshi power input for even the Mix Pre 3 and 6, not just the 10. Some others. So we had a conversation for a while there, which was quite interesting. So I don't know if something new is coming on the Mix Pre line. It's been 5 years, I think. Yeah, about 5 years since the Mix Pre 3 2 series came out. So maybe we'll see something in the next few years. So let's pause there and take a look at the chat and see what's going on in the chat. Daniel, the Las Vegas Convention Center is certainly one of the largest in the world now after the West Hall edition. Yeah, it's pretty big. Las Vegas is deceptively large. Everything, including things indoors, are miles apart. It's true. And that applies not just to the convention center, it also applies to the hotels and stuff as well. Matt says, all I know is I walked and walked and walked. There was a lot of walking involved. It's true. After we ate dinner, we had a hard time pulling ourselves out of the chairs. Christopher says, were the pro audio and live sound vendors in generally the same area or spread out all over the venue? Well, the Audiotronics vendors were all in the same area just because they're a related set of companies. But the others were kind of spread out. So, well, Sennheiser and Shure were just a couple of booths apart from each other. We also went to Electrosonics. That was on its own in another area. Zaxcom was a couple of rows down from Sound Devices. Oh, we also went to Reading Audio, which is basically a US-based, I don't know if they distribute or they just represent other brands from outside the United States, but we got to go there. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. There's also the company that represents Sanken, and I'm trying to remember what they're called. I don't remember what they're called, but we also visited them. Same hall, different area. So to answer your question, Christopher, they're kind of spread out. It's a little bit. That's why Matt had to do a lot of walking. And we all did. I thought TC Electronic was bought by MediaTribe, parent of Behringer. Allen and Heath owner also owns Digico, really, really high-end live sound mixers. Yes, I got to go to the Digico booth as well, Christopher. That was really interesting. One of their salespeople gave me a tour around their different products. So yeah, really high-end, mostly I would say broadcast style mixers and consoles. They were really cool, really fun to look at those. Brad, it even happens with experienced live production. Coachella Green Day set last night had a very bad kick drum peaking mic mix for the first half of the YouTube stream feed. It does. Coachella is a big show, and Green Day is a big act, so that's interesting. Yeah, it's tough. Live sound is not an easy thing to do. Tom say if we do another picture, he wants a box to stand on. Well, yes, so it turns out that Matt and I are both quite tall, and so we got a picture with Tom Buck, and he's kind of a normal-sized human being. And us standing next to him make him look very, very short. In fact, he's not that short. Can we rant a bit about the new Blackmagic ATEM with no 4K? Okay.
There's a lot more comments.
There's a lot more comments. I did go to the Blackmagic booth. I will talk about this a little bit. So the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Extreme ISO G2, that is a mouthful of a product name. I think that's what you're talking about, Mark. So it is now a $2,000 live stream mixer. It has XLR inputs. Yay. I'm really happy to see that. It has a lot of really, really, really cool features, but it is HD. It is not a 4K switcher. So, I mean, we can rant about it, I suppose. I think that it probably makes more sense to have 4K at this point, but I think what Blackmagic is doing, Blackmagic is interesting because in my mind, there's no reason the ATEM, even the ATEM minis, shouldn't be able to do simple video playback in them. They're certainly capable of doing that. However, Blackmagic also makes playback and recording devices like their HyperDecks. And I feel like they're protecting their various product lines to some extent. So That may be what they're doing here with the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO G2, is they're keeping it HD so that it's not competing with their higher end products. I don't know. I will say this though, the ATEM Mini product line, and here's probably their justification. If I had to guess, this is what a marketing person at Blackmagic Design would say. Well, the ATEM Minis are aimed at a market that doesn't need 4K, is probably what they would say. It's meant for much smaller productions, smaller, corporate type situations, smaller churches, so on and so forth, and they don't need 4K. And that we did that to keep the price down. That would probably be what a marketing person would tell you if I had to guess. But while we're on that topic, I did also go to the OC booth. I have reviewed their GoStream in the past, and they announced a brand new GoStream Duet 8. Some pretty cool things on this one. Sub $1,000, depending on what the tariffs do, because they're a Chinese company. You will notice XLR inputs here. Pretty cool. Also, HDMI and SDI inputs. Each input can either use SDI or HDMI, not both at the same time, but still having that flexibility is really, really useful when you're doing a job, especially a smaller job, because if you have to run a camera, a cable to a camera that's 300 feet away, you're not going to do that with an HDMI cable. So having those SDI inputs is really, really useful in those circumstances. And even here in this little setup, I have some SDI cables that are running in various places, and that will make things simpler for me. In addition to that, OC does not have a product line to protect in terms of a hyperdeck. So they have a little SD card slot here, and I can play back video directly from the switcher. So I'm pretty excited to try this one out. It's brand new. They're still finishing up the software, so there'll be a while before I get to a review on that one. But those are the kind of things. So when you're the underdog, you can sometimes do things that the big guys can't do. And Blackmagic is kind of a big guy when it comes to video switchers. And so I'll stop there. Josh, hey, Curtis, so nice to meet you and get to chat for a bit. Likewise, Josh, it was great to meet you. Josh is a great person to go, a YouTube channel if you want to learn about cameras, great, and formerly farming. So I got to meet Josh as well while we were at NAB. That was a fun time as well. Grant, was there any buzz talk of when Zaxcom transmit and record patent ends? No, but I think that's just I don't know how that whole thing works, but you can actually access the patents. There's a whole series of them that Zaxcom has that they registered at different times. I don't know if they can be renewed or not. That's what's unclear to me, but you can go and access the patents themselves and you can see when the expiration dates occur. So they are publicly available. But I didn't see anything there. Matt says Aiden works for Rode now. Is that the case? I thought it was his friend, his kind of partner there. What is his name? I apologize. I've forgotten his name. I know he works for Rode, but I didn't know that Aiden. I don't think Aiden works for Rode. I could be wrong on that, but yeah. So this is the guy from Dark Corner Studios we're talking about here, and he has kind of a friend and I gather a kind of a business partner or that does a lot of the work on the channel with him, but he works for Rode now. I don't know that I'm a celebrity necessarily. I was, again, it's just one of those cases where we get to go around and talk to people. If I meet Curtis, I have to get a photo of my tiny self next to him. What we can do, Linda, is we can sit down. We'll find some chairs. Need to start saving so I can go to NAB next year. That would be lovely. It was, you know, it's actually really, I think, valuable if you're working in the industry because you can talk directly to the product companies. So the conversation I was able to have at the Sound Devices booth with Paul Isaacs, to me, is priceless. Honestly, for my own work, I also went to the Adobe booth and talked to the Frame.io people. So we use Frame.io at work at Webflow. We actually use it also for Learn Light and Sound, but to a lesser extent. It's not as demanding there. But at work, we need to do synchronous reviews where we actually are all on a Zoom call, several of us, instructional designers, the producers, myself as a director, and sometimes others, and be able to watch the cut in Frame.io. But the problem is, the only way to do that is either to share your screen on Zoom and play it back on Zoom, where you can get an amazing high quality 7 frames per second playback, which is awful for actually reviewing a video. What we've actually moved to recently is we're actually using Discord. So we have Discord accounts now. We get on Discord and go into a voice chat, and we can stream at much higher quality there. So as long as your internet feed is working well for everybody, we can stream at like 60 frames per second if we needed to. So that's been a better way to do it. But Frame.io should have a feature where if the host presses play, everyone else that is remote that has Frame.io up, it should also play back for them as well. So you're not transmitting that over the Zoom call or whatever. So anyway, was able to give that feedback and have a conversation with them. And they said, yes, we've had that request multiple times. It is definitely in consideration. Thank you for sharing that as well. So those are the kind of valuable conversations we can have. Did you see Jem Schofield or Caleb Pike? I did see Jem Schofield. So Jem and I got to sit down. There was a little event for Nanlight put on Saturday night, actually. Jem was there. Jem and I have known each other for a number of years, and so we got a chance to sit down. Jem is also, if you need to learn about lighting, he's also done a bunch of the Canon training videos for their different cinema cameras. Fantastic instructor. But also a really great instructor when it comes to lighting design as well, Jem Schofield. And he has the Daily Drop is one of his shows that he does more recently. He also does Camera and Flask along with Caleb Pike, and which is a live stream, also really interesting. Caleb was not there, as far as I understand. I didn't see him, and I think Jem said that he hadn't. His understanding was that Caleb wasn't going to be there. So Caleb Pike, who had the YouTube channel DSLR Video Shooter, basically announced last year, or was it last year sometime? Like early last year, that he was basically taking a break from YouTube because for him, he was always kind of his core interest in things was to be a maker. He was okay reviewing gear, and that he did that for a number of years, but he kind of got tired of it, frankly, because what he wanted to do was make stuff instead. And so he's actually making camera related products now. So anyway, I didn't see him there. So many people came to thank Curtis Judd Audio for help when they were together, at least a half a dozen. Curtis was so gracious, very impressive. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, it was fun. We got to meet a lot of folks that part of the community that we all got to learn together. Very cool. Well, let's keep going. This is fun. Talk about Rycote being sold, Matt says. Yes. So there is a company called Videndum, I think I'm saying that right, who has bought up film or video production related companies. They own Manfrotto. They now own Rycote. They own Anton Bauer, who makes the cinema batteries. They own a handful of other companies as well. So Rycote was sold to them a few years ago. I don't know all the circumstances, but this is the trick. When a company gets sold to a larger parent company, it can be good and it can be really bad. And my sense is that it's not good right now if you're a company owned by Videndum. This is my own impression. But Rycote was one of them, and I reviewed some of Rycote's microphones last year, and I think the year before that as well. And they made some pretty good microphones. In fact, Audix is one of the other companies that Videndum owns who makes microphones here in Oregon, actually. They manufacture them in Oregon. And so the exciting thing was that Rycote was starting to manufacture these microphones and to reduce costs, they were going to basically team up with Audix and have Audix do the manufacturing, who's been manufacturing microphones for decades. And the original batch of microphones from Rycote were manufactured in the UK. So they were going to do that, but it sounds like after I did the reviews, the thing I noticed was that they're not available anywhere. And in fact, at B&H, they say they're discontinued. They have a few in stock at some of the other places like Gotham Sound and True Audio, maybe. I know for sure Gotham Sound. I'm not sure about True Audio, but it seems like those companies that are owned by Videndum are not doing well. They are really struggling. And a little birdie mentioned to me that they basically gutted like a lot of the employees from Audix manufacturing left or were laid off. I'm not sure which, but to transfer all of that knowledge, which is, manufacturing, there's a lot of institutional knowledge that needs to be retained to make manufacturing work well when you're operating at that level. And evidently the handoff was not smooth. It was like basically people going in with their mobile phones, taking pictures of things on the assembly line, and they're going to try and somehow keep it going with that. I don't know. It doesn't sound promising. So, yeah. So that's kind of the story there with Videndum and specifically Rycote. But the fellow that started Rycote, Simon, started a new company that makes shock mounts. And in fact, I can show you that. It's Radius Windshields. If you go to, let's see here. Let's get to their main site. How do I get to their main site? Maybe just Radius Windshields. Windshields. I think this is it here, yes. Yes, so he started a brand new company making windshields from all the things that he learned while he was at Rycote and started that up. All the things that they made that were some really fantastic products. They're now have a new series of windshields. And the thing that's really cool about these, he showed them to me. They have a different kind of suspension system, first of all, and there's some interesting things there. But in addition to that, these new windshields are super quick to get in and on and off. So you've got the shock mount, but you can pop that windshield off in probably 10 seconds, which is the original Rycotes. You had to unscrew it and you had to get everything lined up, and it took some work. And then there was a Cyclone. Cyclone was pretty fast, but Cyclone was only really great for high wind. And then there was the Nano Shield, which was pretty cool, much smaller, lighter weight. It was faster than the originals, but it took some time to kind of get the thing threaded on the shock mount itself, because there's little hooks at the bottom that would slide onto the shock mount at the base, or around it. Anyway, the new ones look really, really fantastic, so I'm excited to try those at some point. So that's the context for that. Linda Lawson, this is from Matt Ruff. I'm 6'3" and Curtis is like 6'4.5". Tom Buck is normal at 5'8". I'm actually 6 foot. Well, the younger Curtis Judd was 6'7". I think I'm 6'6" now. So, Chris Blythe was using the NAM for a vintage broadcasting tool show. It was extremely interesting. I like vintage. Vintage is fun, for sure. So Danny's scouring.
What this was referring to? Maybe the CL16.
Oh yeah. So Christoph, if you're referring to the CL16 from Sound Devices, yes, it's a similar concept, but it is a few leagues above the Zoom F control. Zoom F control is cool, and sadly they discontinued it, but it is the CL16 takes that to a few higher levels. It's got a full screen that is so much better than the tiny little screen on the 8 series. It's got the beautiful faders. It's got control knobs for just about everything. Christopher says, I never could get over the cost of the CL16. It is expensive. It's $6,000 US for a USB control surface, not even a real mixer. It's more than an SQ5 plus Dante card, which is more channels and a full mixer. Yeah, I think the I think the draw there, Christopher, is it's definitely a niche tool. It's not for everybody. And yeah, it's pricey. It's made, as I understand, in the United States. Well, it's assembled in the United States. Um, but it's very niche. It's significantly smaller than an SQ5. So it fits better on carts. I think that's part of the draw. It's deeply integrated with the 8 series. It's for people that don't like, if people are really finicky about how smooth their faders are, I can see the draw of the CL16 versus a SQ. I've got the SQ, and faders are fine to me, but they're not the same as a Penny and Giles fader, linear fader. So I guess that's the draw. Am I going to buy one? No, I don't have the money, and it doesn't make sense for me, but it's a niche product. Christoph, thanks so much for the super chat. I appreciate it so much, and thanks for being here. It's great to have you join us here at our little community. Robert, we got to meet Robert too, by the way. Did I mention this already? Okay. Robert wore a very cool shirt that said, and Robert, you'll have to correct me if I get this wrong, but it said, "Science is like magic, but real," which is a very cool shirt. Robert says, VHF frequencies traditionally were used for old wireless phones. VHF has a much better range because of longer wavelengths. Higher frequencies equals short range, easier to block. Yes, and that's the interesting thing with what Zaxcom has pulled off here is with a pretty standard dipole antenna. Granted, it was on a mast at 8 feet tall, 8 feet up off the ground. But the connectivity, that we were able to hold on to that signal for a long time on that busy floor, and around corners. Robert continues, Wi-Fi mics at 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz can be blocked by the human body. My experience with a Rode chiclet transmitter has dropouts when the body gets in the way. So you have to place it on the actor's front, which is not the best place to put it if you're trying to conceal something. So yeah, great points. Yeah, the when you go to those higher frequencies in the gigahertz range, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, penetrating walls and bodies and things like that becomes more challenging.
Okay, now we're on to sound devices wish lists.
We're on to sound devices wish lists. It sounds like there's a bunch. Adam says, ability to quickly advance the slate scene on the Mix Pre. The file naming structure isn't sufficient on the Series 2. Cool, good point. Mark, I love my Mix Pre 3.2 and have a lot of ideas for improving a new model. Remote control features, better camera to recorder triggering, menu changes, power connections, Hirose, EQ. Why not put a compressor in there while we're at it? If you're going to use it for live. Those are all great points, Mark. Eku Film. Considering the state of the world currently, what are your thoughts on the prices of audio video gear in the upcoming future? Love your live streams. Well, it's anybody's guess. It's so chaotic. It changes by the minute, it feels like. So I learned, Danny was telling me yesterday that the latest on China tariffs is that there are some exemptions for computers and mobile phones. I don't want to get political here, but it changes by the minute, so I really don't know what to expect there. I know that some of the Chinese companies in particular seem pretty nervous and concerned about what the future looks like, so we'll see. Christoph, Deity shows a new SF1 shark fin antenna and those DIFB. Can we talk more about those? You bet. I'm glad you brought those up. What's that?
Theos.
Yeah, the Theos that's part of the Theos system, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, cool. Okay, let's go to the Mac here. So I did go to the Deity booth, got to talk with both Vincent and Andrew. Vincent, for those that are not familiar with him, is basically the Andrew for Europe. And they have their brand new IFB, it's part of the Theos wireless microphone system. So this is basically a body pack receiver that you wear. So you could hook a Deity Theos transmitter up to your mixer with a feed of the mix audio, and then send it, of course, to the DIFB for crew members, for your boom operator, so on and so forth. I got a chance to test this one as well. So they were using one of their Butterfly BF1 antennas up on a mast at about 8 feet, maybe 10 feet. And I went from their booth with the DIFB and walked across the show floor. So I was transecting, or not, no, I was cutting across the other way. So the halls are generally long and skinny. I was going across the skinny part and then also walking down the long part to some extent. And we went probably 300 meters, 400 meters, and we did not experience any dropouts on this as well. So this is going to be UHF frequencies. So this is different than the ZaxCom one. This is using UHF frequencies. And it sounded pretty good. I mean, it's hard to tell on the show floor exactly how good the sound was, but it sounded pretty decent to me. I know there's some outstanding questions and concerns about the Deity Theos system itself in terms of its artifacting, what looks like digital artifacting above 15 kilohertz. We've talked about that on the live stream before. My perspective is if you're recording dialogue, you can just roll that off with a low pass filter. But for those that are trying to use the Theos system for more than just dialogue, they want to capture other things as well. That can be a little, if you need those frequencies up above 15K, that's a trick because the Theos system packs an unprecedented number of features into a kit for, what was it, $1,100 or $1,200. That includes a dual channel receiver, 2 transmitters, the microphones, which are actually pretty decent microphones. All of this in one kit for that price, including full time code generators and the transmitters. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot going on there. It's not a true diversity system, but arguably when you're doing digital transmission, true diversity is a little less, it's not really as important. Antenna diversity is definitely important, but true diversity is less important when you're doing digital. So anyway, it's spec-wise and feature-wise, it's an amazing system, but it does have that one little caveat. So anyway, that's the new DIFB. Now, if we go back to the Mac, they also introduced what they're calling their shark fin antenna, the SF1 directional. So when I covered the butterfly antennas a few weeks ago, one of the big questions I think a lot of people had is, if I attach this to my sound bag, do I get better range? And the answer is possibly, but not unless you do some things like get them up off your bag and at a higher vantage point, put them up on a mast or something. With the shark fin antennas, you actually do get more range because they're directional. Potentially, you get more range. So they are, whereas the bow ties are essentially omnidirectional. These are directional, so these have a kind of a lobe pattern to them in terms of how they can pick them up. And you definitely want to put these up on a mast and properly spaced apart so that your receiver can switch between them. But this one covers between 470 megahertz up to 1 gigahertz, and you can use it with any system. It doesn't have to be Theos that you use it with. It has some active RF gain that it's applying there. Standard 50 ohm BNC connector. There's a metal housing for the electronics. It's vented for outdoor work so that if you have it up on a mast and the wind picks up, it's not going to blow your entire sound card over, which is good. It has a really nice mount too. They're using the Airy 3816 accessory mounting, so it doesn't twist, which is really nice. So they look pretty cool. Haven't tried them yet, of course. They're not shipping just yet. You can sign up to be notified when they do become available. So that was another thing at the Deity booth. Okay, next comment. Audio buff, late to the party, setting up for our Easter program. That's okay. I just wanted to show you something very quickly, Jude. So here we go. This is Mr. Matt Ruff in Las Vegas, and there's the taco shop. We wish you could have been there, Jude. Maybe next time. That one's for you. We took that photo just for you. All right. Christopher says, did you fly or drive to NAB? How expensive overall would you say the trip was? I will say this. Good. Matt has some info. Christopher Ventura, my hotel was about $289 with taxes a night. Air varies greatly per location. I spent $18 for bad chicken nachos. Yeah, I will say this, Christopher. Las Vegas, if I can say in the olden times, used to be budget. Like you could go there and you could spend not a lot of money and be able to get everything you needed. It is not cheap anymore. My hotel, likewise, was probably with all the taxes right around what Matt's was. Mine was off the strip. I prefer to stay off the strip with a hotel that doesn't have a casino in it. So that's just a personal preference. So I stayed at a Hilton Grand Vacations. It was nice. It was quiet. It was chill. It was perfect for me. But it was just a block off the strip, so it wasn't far away. But meals are not cheap. So Matt and I one day went to one of the vendors right there at the convention center. He got $18 nachos. I got a taco bowl type thing that was $22 or something. But even the breakfast, so there's a diner near the hall that Michael Wynn and I went to, and the omelets, they're big. Don't get me wrong, they're enormous omelets. And my strategy was, I'm gonna eat a big breakfast, and then I have some snacks in my bag that I can eat to keep me going through the afternoon, and then I'll go eat dinner. So that's how I did it. But those omelets were $25. So it's not cheap. And then the hotel, I think the hotel was probably the biggest expense. For me, the flight, I was able to get a flight. My flight was $400, I think, from Salt Lake to Las Vegas. So I'm a little bit closer. I could have gone on Southwest and gotten something for cheaper if I had planned more in advance. But scheduling wise, I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to go or not. So I had to book a little bit later. So that probably made my hotel and airfare a little bit higher. But the short version is it's not a budget city to travel to anymore. It's regular, relatively medium to large size city expensive. That's what I would say. All right. Where is Radius manufactured? I believe in the UK. They're manufacturing there. So Simon's still based in the UK. And Rycote, I think, is actually the name of the town where they were originally manufacturing the Rycotes. And I believe Radius is still in a similar type area of the UK. All right, 2219. Love your channel. Sorry I joined late. Any word on the Deity Boom Mic Transmitter, DLTX, I think? There was no word. No, didn't get anything from Deity on that. Matt says, I will say the fader on some of the best I felt, CL16. Yeah, I would agree. So those CL16 faders, the manufacturer of those is Penny and Giles. The interesting thing is that Zaxcom now is, so speaking of faders, if I may, for just a moment, not gonna, we have just a couple minutes. Danny's trying to hurry me up. So Aton Digital, who made the Kantar, had this very unique fader system where they had little like chiclet things that would fit into the slots and be held in place by magnets, but they were fully sealed. And the production sound mixers love them. Some of them love them because they actually work surprisingly well. They sound like they would be terrible, but they actually work surprisingly well. And they can clean them very easily. They just get a damp cloth and wipe it up, and put the magnets back in, and they're good to go. The fader knobs back in with the magnets in them, and they're good to go. The trick with something like on the CL16, if you're working outdoors a lot, after 6 months, you absolutely need to get those sent back in for service, or you need to do it yourself, which means you need to open up the unit, clean out those faders, relubricate them, and so on and so forth. So they are beautiful faders, but there's kind of trade-offs as well.
I don't know what this refers to.
This is referring to Deity's Theos system. Mark asks, did they address any of the high-frequency audio quality concerns? So, no. I mean, I didn't specifically talk to them about that because we were talking about other new products, and they gave me a sneak peek into some other things that I can't talk about yet. But they did not talk about that. And they did not address that. But let me just show you something really quickly. So the new system came out. This was probably one of the more exciting things in the prosumer space. If we can go to the Mac here, let's go back here. So I talked about the Saramonic K9 wireless microphone system, which feature for feature looks basically like a Theos, Deity Theos. Looks like they were very similar. But here is a wirelessly transmitted audio sample from the Saramonic. And I don't see the art. There is definitely something going on, some weird filtering going on here, but it's not quite the same as what I saw on the Theos. So you can see there's like these filters that when something is coming through in the higher frequencies, but it doesn't appear to be affecting, as much. I don't know. We'll do some more samples there. So I don't know. I can't tell for sure. It doesn't look like they're using the exact same hardware, or if they are, they're using different filtering. So in any case, more to come on that. Okay, time to wrap up, but we have three more things here. Giuseppe, did you go to Sennheiser's booth? Their new Spectra system is super impressive. Mic, transmitter, and stereo IEM RX in one belt pack, 32 in out in one rack unit for $10,000. Yes, we did go to the Sennheiser booth. We talked about that a little bit earlier. I didn't spend quite as much time on their new Spectera system, but it's definitely higher end than what I'm in the market for, but it looks pretty cool. So yeah, they have that new kind of high end. It'd be more of a rack mount type thing. So you put it on if someone was going to use it in production sound, it'd be a fairly large cart that you would put that in. Thanks for bringing that up. DaVinci Girl, what about Blackmagic? They still do not provide a convolver inside 20. This is version 20 of DaVinci Resolve she's referring to. It will be nice if there will be in future more often a manager of you in the stream just to give them a focus of the needs. I see what you're saying. So giving feedback to them. Yeah, I need to get into DaVinci Resolve and Fairlight in particular more. I don't use it all the time is the trouble right now, so I need to start using it more before I'm really in a good spot to give them a lot of advice. But yeah, more to come on that. From Robert, you did not mention the Shure mic with beam steering, 196 MEMS mics. So yes, this is the last thing, and then we'll wrap up on this. They had array mics at the Shure booth that we got to demo. I didn't really talk about them because the demo wasn't great, I'll be honest. And it wasn't because of Shure. It wasn't Shure's fault, I don't think, but it was just the show floor was so noisy in that part. It was hard to really make it out. But they have these, it looks like a massive shower head, or you can get it in a square configuration. So somewhere around that big, it maybe 60 centimeters diameter, something like that. But it has 196 MEMS mics in it, so these tiny little silicon mics. And it uses intelligent processing in real time to essentially get a lot of reach. And they're using it mostly in sports right now. So they'll mount these behind the backboards in the professional basketball games and also above. And they'll be able to get a lot of the gameplay. Or, for example, at I'll say football, but I mean that in the international sense, not in the U.S. sense. So, and maybe they're using them at American football games as well. But they'll put them at various places on the sidelines and be able to get some of the gameplay, actually capture some of that so they can put that in the mix. It's always interesting if you go watch one of the sports games and you're watching and you don't hear any of the gameplay itself. It feels a little weird. It feels definitely like you're not there. But when they're able to mix some of that in, it definitely takes on a different feel, a little bit more like you are there. So anyway, that was kind of a fun one as well. I will have a full highlights wrap up that'll go on the main channel here, hopefully in the next few days. If not by next Sunday. I know that's kind of late, but just trying to catch up and get everything done. In the meantime, I hope you all have a great week. Get out there and make some great sound, and we will talk to you again next time. Take care. Talk soon.